Well, Uncle Mark,
Yeah, right here.
how's the weather up there in the Great White North?
It's there's 50 feet of snow, and they have a different weather measuring temperature thing. So I think it's 27.
It's how many moose knuckles to the rod?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a little bit overcast up here in Studio North. How is it in Studio South?
It's freaking hot down here.
Yeah, it's spicy.
Yeah, but it's a dry heat.
Yeah.
Well, Uncle Mark, occasionally on this program, we look at strange things out there in the world that affect our lives on a daily basis, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And Uncle Dan, you have some tidbit of woo to share with us today.
We're going to watch out for some woo. And this particular woo is pretty prevalent out there. And a delight, actually. And what we're going to be talking about are rocks, just pretty rocks, mostly.
Jade eggs up your poos.
No, better than that. I think that may be sort of covered under the umbrella of what we're going to be talking about, but we're going crystals.
Yay!
Today.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm warming up my third eye.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody shake out your chakras because the energy is going to flow.
Yes.
So crystal healing is a quote-unquote complementary healing technique, which, according to people, goes back millennia, 2,000 years or so. But I don't think anybody can really tell you where that comes from. It just seems to be a claim. Like pretty much everything we're going to be talking about in this segment, it's a claim that people are making.
And therefore is covered under the First Amendment.
Is covered under the First Amendment of bullshit.
And therefore gay people have to bake a wedding cake for crystals.
If two crystals are going to get married, bake a damn cake. Whether you're a baker or not, you don't have a choice.
You're forced to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard Ron Paul make this argument.
It's all right there in the First Amendment.
It is all right there. So what do you guys know about crystals? Any thoughts? Any what I'm curious what your initial impressions are of this new age wonderful healing thing.
I know that scientifically, that from the science that they are kind of a strange creature, right? That they are a mineral that accrues or grows in a very unusual way. Is that correct?
Well, basically, so a crystal. You're right in that what makes them pretty and what makes them interesting to look at, and what often makes them kind of see-through and stuff, is that their molecular structure lines up in a sort of perfect formation. The way when water takes on its solid form, it takes a crystalline structure, and that's nice, and it actually does have a sort of perfection to it.
This is really embarrassing.
What?
Well, what I know about crystals is that to become a Jedi Knight, a Padawan has to find his own kyber crystal that will power his lightsaber and give it its color. But clearly,
Doug,
and put it up his poos.
You're kicked off the show, Doug. Sorry, you've gone one level too nerdy. I'm afraid.
I'm gonna go do
the
Star
Klingon
Talk.
thing was just about enough.
Yeah, exactly. You're in timeout. You're in nerd timeout. No, okay. So let's talk about quartz, which is one of the sort of main crystals. It's a very prominent crystal element or mineral that is around the world.
Often expressed in a purple tone, yeah?
It's maybe. I see a lot of it in just sort of a white/clear. Quartz crystals are... But quartzite can be almost anything. As a matter of fact, the Taj Mahal is made of a quartzite.
Really?
People think it's a marble, but it's technically not, and that's why it's kind of see-through. You can actually shine light from inside of it and see that light through some of the walls.
No kidding.
So quartz is an interesting crystal, and if you know anything, so for instance, you've heard of a quartz watch or timepiece, and what that means is that timepiece actually uses the crystal to keep its time. Well, how does it do that? Vibrations is the word that's going to drive you crazy for the entire rest of this whole segment. Really what happens is if you run an electric current through a quartz crystal, it vibrates at a very like the current current has its own frequency, and if you run it through a quartz crystal, it establishes a very reliable frequency, and you can set a time by that. You can keep time by that reliable frequency. Now, that's as close to real science as I know how to get about these crystals.
Yeah.
But we're going to abandon real science now and take some steps into the land of woo, where vibration is the most meaningful word that anyone can say in the world. As a matter of fact, there's a quote from one Mr. Albert Einstein, and I'm going to find that quote if I can figure out which of these documents that I have pulled up actually has a quote in it. This is quoted on some website, but it says, Albert Einstein said, "Everything in life is vibration."
Oh no, he didn't say that.
And that quote is expanded in a lot of things. It's a very prevalent quote on all the woo sites. And Uncle Doug, you have hit on something very interesting, which is no, he did not say this. There is no time in his entire career it doesn't line up with anything that he thought. It's literally not Einstein, but boy howdy, they love that quote.
Right. That is like a woogasm quote.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right. And from a scientist, a famous physicist, it just means that everything in the world that they've said is true.
Right.
I'll bet when Deepak Chopra read that, he had to be treated with emergency acupuncture.
Right. Yes, indeed. I'm going to read. I'm just going to quote to you from one of the websites that I found. It says that healing created over the millennia, which I suppose so. It takes time for crystals to form. Right. Healing crystals harness the life-giving elements of the earth and the universe. Harnessing the energy of the sun, the moon, and the oceans, semi-precious stones connect us to earth as soon as we come into contact with them. So there you go.
The fact that there wasn't a monk chanting behind you when you said that is very jarring to me.
Right. Where's my didgeridoo? It's around here somewhere. I've got a didgeridoo.
It harnesses It harnesses the power of the sun, the moon, and the ocean.
Yes.
And connects you to the earth. It's just all the things. It's just everything.
Right. All it makes is sense. This is just, it's obvious when you think about it, right? It's a rock, and somehow the moon is involved.
I know. The sun, okay. The sun's kind of a very important part of any kind of process on the earth. But the moon?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll continue with the quote here. Many people wonder if crystals have healing powers, and while there are many anecdotes describing the curative effects of healing stones, it really depends on your own experience, which is the best cop-out I have ever read on a website about woo.
It is. My entire philosophy is based on complete dependence on the fallacy of the personal anecdote.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I fully admit it. That's the great thing.
Yeah, that's a caveat big enough to drive all of chemistry through.
I'll bet an emergency room doctor would attest to the fact that a crystal definitely has healing power if you can stick it in a bullet wound that's exactly the same size to stop the bleeding.
Or if you can put it in front of the bullet before it hits you.
Yeah. Short of that, methinks no.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like many of the woo that we have encountered over the course of our 60 episodes or whatever, 40 episodes, that is.
200,000.
Yeah, it feels like too many. This one does have a perceivable effect in studies, and that perceivable effect is the same as placebo. So we have achieved full placebo effect with this. There have not been many studies about crystals, but there have been a few. And usually what ends up happening is they give a crystal, they prime people for it. They tell them what crystals do, or rather what crystal lovers say they do. And then they give people a crystal, and then they let them do whatever woo they do with it, and then they ask them how they feel afterward. And half of the study they give real crystals, and half of the study they give fake crystals. And you'll be literally shocked. I mean shocked to find out that no, actually there's no difference in the perception of each. They both have the fake crystals have every bit as much healing power as the real ones.
So this is are they giving these to wounded people or sick people, or are they just giving the people and saying, how do you feel? How's your mood?
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing. Or it's like, go ahead and put it on your bum knee and tell us how you feel at the end of it or whatever. And that's what people do. Now, a lot of crystal practitioners will tell you different crystals have different, the lapis lazuli does one thing and the smoky quartz does another thing. And that would be great if they agreed with each other on what these things do.
Of course.
But they don't.
And it has nothing to do with them owning a shop that sells lapis lazuli and smoky amethyst, right? It just happens to be.
They're
just pharmacists. They're just pushers.
Basically,
they're just pushers.
They're the ones who know. And there are online quote-unquote universities accredited by no one for anything that will give you a degree or will give you a certification in crystal healing, and you can go out into the world and say, I'm certified as a crystal healer, and then voila, you know all the things you need to know about your various and sundry, your quartzes and your amethysts and your things,
oh, God.
And, of course, it does get dangerous when they start to talk about crystals being the better alternative for your cancer than chemo or whatever.
Right.
But in fairness, onyx is pretty. So how could they be wrong?
Have you guys ever been to like Taos, New Mexico, or one of the places that, of course, is an energy vortex, where you can feel that around you? You will find what in any other part of the world would be called a rock shop.
Right.
Where there are these, crystals of various types. Have you seen the prices on these things? Like, it is lucrative. Whoever's selling these as medicinal, kind of cures, it is. They're in the thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It can be. Although most crystal healers will say that, the crystals that you pick up at the local planetarium in their pretty rocks bin will work for you if they're the right kind of crystals. And so, there are books that you can buy, and some crystals you need to make sure that you put them on your head, and some because that's the chakra that one aligns. And then some of them, of course, you put on your chest, and I think and then of course there are the ones that you put up your hoo-ha
and your butt.
Your butt
crystal.
Well, it just depends on, if you're a man or a woman and, what you're into, really. Your kinks are your own in terms of crystals. I think everybody can agree with that.
Totally.
This ends up being about vibration. If you try to nail anybody down, they don't know what it means that it's about vibration, but they know that it's about vibration.
Right.
And the crystals will somehow make you vibrate. Now, if you vibrate on the same frequency as the universe, then magic and you win at lifing. It becomes, frankly, what's great is that these people talk so sincerely about vibrations, and then when you ask them about it, if you try to drill down at all, they get very, very frustrated.
Right.
Here's another interesting quote from a different website that says, crystals vibrate at a frequency that is nearly immeasurable. And by nearly, I think they mean all the way.
Yes, exactly.
Can only be picked up on an e-meter.
Right, exactly. Can only be picked up with bullshit. But this person says, but we are getting closer. The Carillion camera, which again, I think we've gone back to Star Trek, showed that by holding a clear quartz crystal, one's biomagnetic field doubles in size, generating electromagnetism, meaning it actually gives you a bigger aura.
It's an aura boner.
If you read that quote 3 times into a mirror, Deepak Chopra will show up.
I have a friend, a dear friend, and Doug, you know who I'm talking about, whose mother is a high priestess practitioner of woo.
Sure.
And he was telling me that one of the more recent times that he went to visit his mother, she had a new gong. And she was very proud of, and she operated the gong. I don't know what you call operating a gong. She gonged it, and
he was kicked off the show. That's so mean.
Jamie Farr gonged it, and he said she was very proud that it vibrated at the frequency of a soon-to-be-discovered new planet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, not discovered yet. Not discovered yet.
That's You gotta love the untestable claims, because those are the ones that are the most meaningful. If you can't even point to which planet it is, no one can falsify you.
What's Earth's frequency? Is it like AM 570?
It's 107.3 The Blaze.
It's the undiscovered planet is planet none your business.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. I just love it. So I read you that whole thing about making your aura bigger and the Carillion camera or whatever, and the Curlian camera. I don't know what that means. I love that immediately following that, this very author says, so they've written, meaning it actually gives you a bigger aura. Cool, but what does that mean? Meaning he doesn't even, they don't even know. They cannot tell you what having a bigger aura might indicate. But boy, howdy, holding that crystal sure gives it to you.
Right. I think, not, again, we don't want to delve into actual, provable science. But I think that oftentimes a doctor might tell you, based on, whatever condition you have, that bigger is not always better.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. What if it's like a tumor? Having a bigger aura might be horrible for you. If we knew what an aura was,
congratulations, you have an enlarged heart.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've always worried about the Grinch on that front. Like, his heart grew 3 sizes that day. That sounds really, really bad.
In a day.
Yeah, exactly.
In a day. And who's going to feed that poor little dog if he dies?
It's a very valid question. So here we are. We're stuck with a bunch of rocks that somehow magnify or demagnify your vibration.
Right.
And somehow we vibrate too. And
Right.
if you talk to them, if you talk to a practitioner about vibration, they love to get into things like, well, we now know that string theory in quantum physics is all about these strings that vibrate, and that's what we're all made of, and everything is made up of these vibrating strings. And if strings are vibrating, then we know that we're all vibrating, and blah 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 blah. And none of it's how physics actually works, but they use it just enough physics words to make it make sense to them.
It's basically like, what was that? There's that garbage woo movie that posed as science. What was that? The What the Bleep Do We Know?
What the bleep? Sure.
Yeah.
With Marley Matlin, and where people are just literally saying, oh, science just continues to prove our completely bizarre claims, and physicists are like, yeah, no, that's not even remotely the case. That's not what string theory is. That's not what quantum gravity is. None of that proves anything that you're claiming.
Right.
And but getting back to just go to the planetarium, which is actually a place that celebrates science, but let's forget about that. Go back to the planetarium and get a handful of pretty rocks. If these people seriously believe what they're claiming to believe, that's like going to a pharmacy, walking to a pharmacy and just taking whatever pills, right?
Sure.
You don't know what your vibration is, so you
It's
don't know
all
what
medicine.
fucking crystal medicine you need for your. What if you get the wrong one?
Well, what you're not taking into account is that they're all just good. Everything's just good for you.
There is no like dark crystal that if you should avoid.
Yeah, avoid the movie The Dark Crystal.
Yes, do definitely avoid
terrible.
the movie. It is.
Oh,
it did
isn't
not
that
age.
sad?
Yeah.
It's a
Isn't that
betrayal
sad?
of my childhood to say so. I understand.
I
but
promise you, it's better in your memory.
yeah. If you haven't seen it recently, don't. Anyway, no. As far as I can find, there are no crystals that counteract your health or that are counterindicated by anything. It's just.
What if you overdose? What if you what if you get the wrong? Remember the film of that bridge that's like blowing in the wind and then it just breaks the fuck apart? That's vibrations.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
You just vibrated.
you get the wrong 6 crystals on the wrong chakras and suddenly you just explode.
You're like that creature in what was it, Jacob's Ladder that he sees in the subway, whose head's just like shaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like I think that's there's the danger here.
Yeah. Fortunately for everybody, all of this is literally bullshit.
Right.
So you can't, unless you drop a very large crystal on your head, you're fine. You're going to be safe.
Right. And I just want our listeners who we love out there to understand, Uncle Dan, this was not condemning vibrators. He was condemning the idea of vibration as a thing that we are.
Indeed,
we love vibrators.
If you have a thing at home that actually vibrates,
Right.
put that on your vagina.
Or
That's
if you can
fantastic.
find
Put
a
it in your
crystal that will
poos.
bring you to climax, buy that crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Buy me one.
Right. Unfortunately, these vibrations are not what you might call in science real, and therefore cannot help you come to climax at all, except by the. I don't know. Can you have a placebo climax? Can you have a placebo-gasm? Because that sounds
I don't
great.
know. Ask Uncle Doug. I think he's been present for more than a few.
Hey,
Ew.
hey, yo. Oh.
All right. Well, with that, let's vibrate on.
Yeah, I think we've hit it. Vibrate into the future, guys.
Namaste.
Moving on.